Oh, hey. Oh, are you ready to go backpacking? Cool, me too. So you've worked on adding some distance and you've worked on hiking some easy trails, and now you want to go a little bit further. That's fantastic. But before we do that, there's one really important thing that we have to talk about first. And that's the 10 essentials of backpacking. Hi, my name's Melissa, the Unlikely Hiker. So before you go out on any backpacking trip, there are some things that you have to bring with you every time, just to make sure you're gonna stay safe. We call them the 10 essentials of backpacking. I'm just gonna run through these pretty quickly. If you have any questions, put those in the comments below. Let me know what you usually bring, or maybe what you might even choose to leave at home. I'd really be interested to find out. Okay, so the 10 essentials of backpacking. I'm literally gonna read this little list here. Navigation, sun protection, insulation, illumination, first aid, fire, repair kit, tools, nutrition, hydration, and emergency shelter. Let's dump this out and see what we got. I'm sure we got more than the 10 essentials. Oh yeah. Hopefully I got them all. So on a day hike, you really don't need to bring a ton of things with you, but there's always a few things that you do want to bring. Ruby! Wait. Somebody really wants to play Frisbee. So even if you're gonna go out on a short backpacking trip, there's always a few things that you definitely want to bring with you, just in case. So first and foremost, navigation, right? How are you gonna figure out where you're at and where you wanna go? So we have a couple options, really popular these days, especially if you have cell phone service or you have an app like Gaia. You could use electronic navigation. You could also use something like a Garmin. This is the old school regular version. They also have the mini. The benefit to this is not only is it navigation, but it's also satellite communication. And then you have the old school map and compass. So paper maps are always good to have as a backup. I feel like in today's electronic age, people are really moving toward electronic navigation. Personally, and this probably is a little bit of an unpopular point of view on this, I think just going with electronic navigation is fine if you know where you're going and you're not that far from civilization. If you are, you're gonna want a little bit of redundancy there just to be safe. And if you're using a map and compass, having them is not enough. You have to have a basic understanding of how to use a map and compass. Now, if I'm hiking in the middle of the woods here in upstate New York, let me tell you how hard it is to get a bearing and figure out where you're at and where you're headed. I have a lot better luck using the sun, honestly. I mean, it can be very challenging. So just remember, if you're gonna bring something out, having it is not enough. You have to know how to use it also. And that does go for the electronic navigation as well. Second one, sun protection. This is especially true if you're hiking above tree line, it's really hot out, and you have to keep that sun off of you. A hat, great for sun protection, keep the sun off your face. You could use some type of bandana and you could put it under your hat and cover your neck if you need to. Sunglasses, right? This is easy. Keep those eyes covered. Sunscreen, if you want to use sunscreen. I personally much prefer to use a sun shirt because it keeps the sun off of me and I'm not using chemicals on my skin. I know it's sunscreen, it's probably not that horrible for you, but a sun shirt I prefer. It's just what I like to keep, and then it's also a long sleeve layer in case I get a little chilly too, so dual purpose. It's really important to keep the sun off of you because you don't want to get heat stroke or get overheated. That's going to lend itself to dehydration and sweating, and it's just going to cause a lot of issues. So try and keep the sun off you the best you can. Insulation. This is completely dependent on the time of year. So in the winter, obviously, you're going to have a lot more. You might have down layers, you might have fleece layers, you might have base layers because it's really cold. In the summer, an insulating layer might just be a thin fleece with a windbreaker over it. If it's gonna rain, you're gonna wanna carry rain jacket, rain pants perhaps, but you're gonna want some type of insulating layer. You're also gonna wanna make sure you keep that dry in case the weather is going to be rainy. You want to make sure you keep your core warm. You don't want to get hypothermia, in addition to the aforementioned hyperthermia. Illumination is the next one. You want to make sure you have some type of illumination device that is not your cell phone. Let me repeat that. Your phone, although it has a flashlight, do not rely on that for illumination. You want something like this headlamp, and in my opinion, bring a backup. It doesn't take that much more effort, or make sure you have a way to charge this if you need to. If you're using a battery operated headlamp, which is completely fine, carry an extra set of batteries just in case. But if you've ever tried to change the batteries in the middle of the woods on a headlamp that died after the sun went down, it's excessively difficult. So I'm gonna say again, bring a backup source of light. That's not your cell phone. First aid. You wanna make sure you have some type of basic first aid. So you don't need a trauma kit in the woods. I'm a first responder and I still don't need a trauma kit in the woods. There's a few things you want to make sure you can deal with in the backcountry, but there's always ways you can improvise. The most important thing that you could do to help save someone's life is have a way to call for help, like a Garmin, some type of satellite communication, or if you're lucky enough to have cell service, that's fantastic. But as far as first aid, you just need the basics. This is basically my little ditty kit, but inside of that, I have first aid. And in here, I can fix bleeding, blisters. I could cover and tape a laceration, basic stuff. I could open a blister if I wanted to, but I probably would not be doing that on a day hike. Just simple items. Probably some ibuprofen, Tylenol. For me, I get migraines, so Excedrin, I have to have Excedrin. Imodium I usually carry with me, Benadryl in case someone has an allergic reaction, with the responsibility of giving someone else medication. You've got to make sure that you know what their allergies are, and if you can't discern that, unless it's life-threatening, be careful. They also have things like extra contact lenses, soap, duct tape, you know, nothing really out of the ordinary. There's not a lot in here. So if you're like me and you hike with an animal, you're also going to want to make sure to have a first aid kit for your dog. That includes things that are specific to your dog, like foot coverings, a way to cover up a cut paw, something like that. There's some medicines you can use in between dogs and humans, like Benadryl, but make sure you have a discussion with your vet about what they believe is the best thing for you to put into your first aid kit if you're backpacking with your best friend. And as far as repair gear, I also have all my repair gear in here. I've got duct tape, I've got tape that I could seal up a hole in a sleeping pad, basic things. I could replace a zipper with safety pin, all little things. And also going along with tools, I have this little tiny knife, and it's got tweezers, scissors, knife, just the basics, toothpick. It's pretty cool, 20 bucks. Also in my first aid kit, I have the next item, fire. And somewhere floating around is also matches. I carry both matches and a lighter with me, because you just never know when one might fail. If it's kind of cold out, this might be a little harder to use. A match might work a little bit better. If I'm struggling to get a fire lit, a match might be a better option. Also, just because it's gonna stay lit a little bit longer. In my food bag, if it's a longer hike, this will be in my hip belt pocket, but I have anaphylactic reaction to ground bees, and I have exercise-induced asthma that's really bad in cold weather. So these are always with me. My name is also on these, just in case I lose it, somebody knows that it belongs to me. Next up, nutrition. So I've got easily a day's worth of food in here, plus a little bit extra. It might be a couple bars, it might be an extra wrap. Not much. I always carry too much food. I don't know why. I just have never been able to nail that down. So food and a little bit of extra food. And again, if you're backpacking with your buddy, make sure you always carry extra food for your dog. So this is one extra meal for her. This would be in addition to whatever I normally bring for her. So she's got her little bowl for her food and a bowl for her water. Hydration. It is not enough to just carry water unless you're backpacking in an area that has no additional water. Then you're gonna have to make sure you carry enough for you, and if you're hiking with another person or an animal, enough for them as well. But you need a way to filter more water if that's gonna be something that's available on your trail. It doesn't have to be a water filter. You could use bleach. A couple drops of bleach is gonna be fine. You could use treatment drops, iodine tabs, anything, but you have to have a way to purify water while you're on the trail. Otherwise, make sure you have more water than you need if there's no water available on the trail. And don't forget, extra for your friend. And emergency shelter. I am not gonna take this out because it is nearly impossible for me to get it back in with my hand. But this is actually a rain poncho that turns into a tarp. So if you really don't want to carry a lot and it's just a simple day hike and you don't think you're going to be out very long, you know, probably more ideal conditions where you're going, this is going to be an interesting choice. This will be a pretty decent choice for you. You might prefer something like a bivy. Again, there's two of us, there's me and Ruby, so I'm going to want to make sure I bring something that is going to accommodate both of us. So this is in fact big enough for both of us. One thing you have to remember if you're going to use something like this poncho tarp is you're going to need trekking poles to set it up appropriately, or rope, or a combination of both. And if you really want to dive into the weeds on that, you could always carry a couple tent stakes to help tie this out, if just in case you need to use it. I would rather have something to sleep under and carry, this is probably next, these are titanium stakes, extra couple ounces. I'd rather carry an extra couple ounces and know I can get under my tarp. Yeah, if there's good sticks around you, you can always use sticks as tie outs. But your choice, but just make sure if you're gonna carry an emergency shelter that you can actually put it up and use it. In theory, you could just put this on, sit on the ground and tie it over you, or, you know, hang it over you and you'd be fine. That just doesn't sound pleasant to me. Going along with that, this is an emergency blanket. This one actually is an extra large one and it has a little bit of stretch to it, so it's really nice. So I could actually even put this down on the ground. I could put the other thing over the top of me and, you know, uncomfortable night in the woods. That's what this is gonna equal to. I like carrying something to sit on. On short day hikes, I'm not bringing a backpacking chair. That just doesn't make any sense to me. But if I had to, I could sit on this and it's gonna help keep my butt warm. Holds true if I get stuck in a, you know, hella rainstorm or something. I could put that poncho tarp over me and sit on this, and Ruby and I could, in theory, just kind of sit underneath and stay dry. So that's really it. That's all I got for you. It's really important for you to tailor the 10 essentials of backpacking to where you live, what kind of hiker you are, who's coming with you, what's coming with you. Is it a dog? I don't know. Some people hike with their cat too. So make sure you're carrying what you need for where you're backpacking. And it's going to vary from season to season, and that's fine. But you want to be able to keep yourself safe in the backcountry. I have in fact spent an uncomfortable night out, and thankfully I carried just enough. I was sleeping on a little piece of Reflectix, but thank God I had that, because it would have sucked had I not done that. So before we get hiking next week, you can work on the 10 essentials in your pack, get your pack ready, and next week we'll start hiking. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye. Don't forget your emergency comb. If you got hair like mine, ow, you're gonna need to brush it a lot because it gets tangled. Ow, tangled. See, emergency care.